call this regular meeting of Board of Education to order. Look around the room. I think we're going to go ahead and do introductions, given the number of people in the room. I will note that Jamie is at soccer and she hopes to be here in about 15 minutes. So, Tina Ray Scott.
Patty Talent.
Kelsey Hartman.
Jay Troxel.
Don Alderman.
Terry Powell.
Evan Carr.
Camber Weeks.
Nancy Meyer.
Valerie Gear.
Heather Honus.
Angela Harris.
Jay Dornbos.
Dana Reddick.
Kelsey Bremer.
Chris Delforge.
Kim Cooper. Nola Miller. Keely Reddick.
Matt Weaver.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is the empty chair philosophy. Mrs. Meyer.
You will notice an empty chair in the middle of the boardroom. I ask you to picture a student in our district, whether it be one in the classroom, on the stage, or on the court or field that is represented by the empty chair. We are here for students, and all decisions should be made keeping students at the forefront of all those decisions. As the best schools make decisions based on the needs and interests of their students, not the habits and traditions of the adults, I ask you to keep that student in your mind while making decisions to ensure the best interest of our students by providing a safe learning environment that is relevant and rigorous to prepare them for post-secondary endeavors.
Thank you, Mrs. Meyer. The next item are additions and approval of the agenda. We will have business item executive session number 10 for student information. Student information, student matter will be necessary. That is the only addition to the agenda. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Madam President, I move to approve the agenda as presented and amended.
Second.
It's been moved to approve the agenda as presented and amended. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Amber, did we have any comments from patrons? All right. The next item on our agenda then would be our spotlight on education, which includes HOSA, FBLA, and FCLA presenting on their upcoming national conferences. Mrs. Cooper.
Okay, well for HOSA, we took 5 kids to the state HOSA and up in Manhattan. And Danica Adams ended up getting 2nd place in veterinary medicine. Clinical specialty was Michaela Hutchison, and she got 1st. Community awareness was a team of Abby Shear and Lainey Bremer, and they got 2nd. And then we had one team of Danica and Layla that didn't place. So we took 5 kids, and 4 will be going on to Houston. If approved. Yeah. Great, thank you.
For state FBLA, I had 11 students that attended in Topeka. Lainey Bremer and Jude Cormanic placed 1st in digital video production. Riley Forgy placed 1st in Introduction to Social Media Strategies. Cassidy Dahlquist placed 4th in Job Interview. Landon Doty and Finn Gant placed 5th in Broadcast Journalism. And then Abby Shear placed 6th in Spreadsheet Application. In order to qualify for nationals for FBLA, you place in the top 4. So we have 4 students that qualified for nationals for us. And it's in Orlando.
For FCCLA, we went to state last week in Wichita, and we had 13 go to state and 4 qualified for nationals in their events. So Easton Hansen and Marley Gant placed 2nd for their event, and Shannon Miller and Piper Alexander placed 1st for their event. So they all qualified for nationals in Seattle this summer.
Thank you. And we were talking before the meeting started. I heard that there was some overlap. Can you let us know when the dates are for each of your national events?
Mine's the 26th of June through the 30th of June.
And then
Then I guess you,
Mine's the 27th of June through the 30th of June.
and mine's June 29th through July 3rd.
Thank you.
And Laney's our only one that doubled up, that qualified for two. So Laney Bremer qualified for HOSA and FBLA.
Will she be able to attend both?
We think so.
Finishes with me on the 29th.
And we start, our opening is the night of the 29th, so we think so.
Yeah, we finished the 28th, so she could, yes,
Yeah.
leave us Saturday, yeah. So she could leave 28th and get to hers the 29th.
What an amazing opportunity for that senior.
Yes,
That's a
congratulations
phenomenal
on your
opportunity.
work.
Yes.
Just while they're here, let's read our policy on national travels. And then later in the meeting, they'll discuss it and decide. USD 417 will contribute the following contributions to help cover expenses for students to attend a national conference where students will participate or compete. $250 per qualified student, up to a maximum of $2,000 for one event. So $250 per student. All advisory expenses, including room, meals, and travel, are included. Any outside activities would not be covered by the district. Transportation to and from the event, such as school vehicles. The first tank of fuel to the conference city will be provided by the district. Now, I would think I would say transportation to and from the airport. If have a little latitude there to tell you, because most of you probably are gonna have to fly out of Kansas City to get a direct flight rather than Manhattan. So the first tank of gas and the vehicle will be provided to you. So. Any questions on that?
Okay. The next item is item F, approval of the consent agenda. That includes improving the minutes of the previous meetings, March 18th and March 27th. Financial reports and pay bills in the amount of $219,202.11. Donations and gifts. Personnel, employment of Sky Wills as the Council Grove Junior Senior High School 7th grade math teacher. Jessica Tidd as the Council Grove Elementary School 4th grade teacher. Stephanie Spear as the Council Grove Elementary School 6th grade Science Social Studies. Resignations of Abby Evans as the Council Grove Junior Senior High School teacher's aide. And transfers of Butch Hayes, the Council Grove Junior Senior High School 7th grade math to Council Grove Junior Senior High School math teacher, and Clara Eldridge as the Council Grove Junior Senior High School Student Support Specialist to the Council Grove Junior Senior High School 7th grade ELA teacher. Is there anything that you would like to have removed from the consent agenda? Hearing none, at this time I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Madam President, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
And a second?
Second.
Moved by Patty, seconded by Donnie to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Our next item are our administrative reports. Council Grove Elementary, does Hannah have anything further to report? Mrs. Bremer? Prairie Heights Elementary.
Other than that.
The Junior Senior High School, Mr. Dornbus.
I just add that I got a call from Hillis this afternoon, and they're gonna move forward about a week. They're gonna start the 24th or 25th on the pickleball tennis court renovations. So that'll, it's about a week or two ahead of what we thought it was gonna be. And then We also got a call on the flooring in the ag classroom. They're gonna start the 24th, so. And a lot of the new tools and equipments we ordered after the last meeting have already shown up, so we're getting things tucked away right now and put in places so we get the flooring going.
You said pickleball would start the 24th
24th to 25th,
of April.
yes.
Okay.
Health and wellness, Mrs. Reddick.
Nothing to add.
I would like to point out, if you didn't see it in her report, we may get some funding from the KDHE grant. We're still waiting on that information regarding that grant funding and what we can utilize that for. So, thank you, Mrs. Reddick.
That was a surprise, so hopefully that's a good addition to come.
Great, thank you. Curriculum, Mrs. Gear.
I would just say that this is our last week for state assessment testing, so thank you to the buildings who have been working hard, all hands on deck, getting all those makeup tests done, and parents, thank you guys for sending your kids and getting all of it done. So this is our last week of state assessments, and we'll be done, so yay.
Great, thank you. Mrs. Meyer.
Oh, whoa, I have a list. We have some good news. Our Blue Cross Blue Shield rates are at 27% instead of 41.6. And I have that on a spreadsheet in front of us that we can look at later when we're discussing negotiations. But although that seems high, it sounds great compared to what they started out with. So our KBS company that does the negotiations for us, it was between Blue Cross Blue Shield and United Health. United Health had lower rates, but felt that there would be quite a disruption in services to our employees if we switched from United Health to Blue Cross. So we stuck with Blue Cross Blue Shield on their recommendation. Flint Hills Special Ed Co-op, we have some reorganization. Our director, Tara Glades, had resigned November, December. And I think she was just overwhelmed with the amount of work. And the co-op agreed to hire an assistant director for her. So she's staying with us, and we're taking one of the special education coordinators to be the assistant director of the co-op. So what happens, that leaves us with just 4 coordinators left. JB Gee, our special ed coordinator, has been hired as our school psychologist. We will share her with North Lyon County and Council Grove. And our new SPED coordinator is Angie Becker, who formerly has served North Lyon County. She will be in our district 3.5 days a week, and will be at Northern Heights High School 1.5 days a week. There will be less time that they're pulled to go into Emporia to do special education work, as now they have an assistant coordinator to help with that. Our non-resident enrollment capacity, the administrators were meeting on Wednesday. And I must have skipped class that day because I didn't see that we needed to have the board approve it before May 1st, before we posted it. I just thought we had to have it posted on our website by May 1st. So I apologize about that, but I'm asking that if we couldn't have a Thursday morning, Thursday evening, or Friday morning meeting, a Zoom meeting if we needed to, just to approve the spreadsheets of capacity that the administrators are putting together for us. So that's kind of where we're at right now. We can talk about that later to see who's available at those times. And if we get that approved, once we get capacity set on Wednesday, we'll be ready to get it posted on our website. We have a home track meet on Thursday, and it begins at
3 o'clock?
3 o'clock for field events.
Right.
Is that right?
Yep.
And we have how many teams?
Oh, I think we're around 8 or 9.
8 or 9 teams, a big event. Our street overlay for the city from 4th Street which is the laundromat, to the east edge of town started today. And my knowledge is they're milling up the old asphalt and they're doing one lane at a time. We'll have a pilot car. When they start overlaying, they will still have room for the buses to turn into the school each day, each morning and each afternoon. So it should not disrupt us, other than there was a backup waiting for the pilot car to get them through there. So just a little bit of time. They will overlay Wood Street when they're finished with the main drag. And he didn't think that it would take more than a week to complete that. And so if they're on time, they would start next Monday on Wood Street here. We will reroute some of our buses to the south side for the day or two it takes to get that. So we've driven by and looked at what we needed to do with them. Prom.
Wait, go back.
I still got it.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. Prom is Saturday at,
7 to 10, the promenade will start at 6:30.
okay. And is there, after prom?
Yep, after prom, after that, a non-school group is putting that on, but it'll be in Braves gym.
Okay,
Anybody that wants to come chaperone, you're welcome.
all right. So along with our overlay on the street, Schilling has looked at our gravel parking lots. And I've got a sheet of paper there on the bottom of your stack that shows a bid. For the district office here, grade school lot 1 is north of the playground. 2 is another strip on the north side. 3 is another strip on the north side, probably north side of Building Bronx. And then lot 4 and 5 are over on the east side. Those are all gravel lots. However, I'm not sure that Schilling is on our pre-bid list from the state. And so if we wanted to continue with this perhaps this summer, I would have to get RFPs out to other companies to get other bids. So that's what we'll do there. Does anybody have any question? That's kind of the end of my list.
So were you thinking about paving all the parking lots, or just like, can we pick and choose?
You know, they went ahead and gave us a bid on everything. It just depends on what type of funding you think you want to do now, or if we want to do any at all. So that they did break it down, so in case if we just wanted to do the one on the north side of the playground, we didn't want to do the district office. I don't have an answer for you. That's up to all of you on what you'd like done.
So for the people that are new in the room, can you explain where funding for this, which?
This would come out of capital outlay, basically. And if you look at your sheet here with percentages on it and everything, you can see that our capital outlay fund, we have $3.3 million sitting in it. Our funding, what I want to tell you, we're in this is as of today, so we're in 9.5 months of our 12-month fiscal year, which is 79.2%, which means if we had been equally spending our money, we should have 20.8% left. So if you look at our numbers down here, there are only a couple that are in the 20s. Title I, we also have 100% left in Title IIA. Title IIA is professional development and technology that we're allowed to switch over into Title I at the end of the year. Title I usually covers most of our salary expenses, some technology, some curriculum. Am I right? Am I getting there? Okay, so it's not as low as it looks. Contingency reserve is not on here, okay. But there's your capital outlay fund that is sitting there. We do have someone looking at our roofs, and we have a portion of our roof at the high school that's damaged, and we're waiting to hear back from the insurance company on coverage for them, what it's gonna cost us to get it taken care of. It's more of a summer project.
Does Tom feel like all of these need done sooner than later?
I don't know
or-
that Tom's seen this. This just came to me today.
I think lot one would be at the very high priority on my list. That's where everyone goes in and drops everybody off. And if it rains or there's any moisture, it is a muddy, sloppy mess. There's cars all over the place. There's no lines on the gravel parking lots. Then you have people that are parking willy-nilly and kids walking behind them, and it's a huge mess. So I think if
Okay,
lot one is probably number, is that right? Grade school lot one, the one
Yeah,
that's
that's
just
the big
north of
one.
the slab, that's probably the most important one I would see.
We've had people break their arm falling in the holes.
It's nasty, it's a sloppy mess.
So we have to get separate bids.
I have to send out a couple more RFPs. Greenbush will have some companies for us that are already pre-bid. This was a courtesy from Schilling, that's who's doing the street overlay. And since they were setting up here, they wouldn't have as many costs left over or cost to them to have a second setting. But if we're gonna put it off until summer, they'll probably have to rebid it.
How quick can we have bids for everything else?
Say
How
what?
quick can we have bids for everything else?
At least 2 weeks. I think 2 weeks. Sometimes companies don't come through, they've gotta come here and they've gotta look at it and measure it. So that's kind of where we're at. I would be able to have it by the May meeting.
But that's, I mean, we save $2,000 though if we get it done while they're here, but they're not gonna be, they're here this week, right? Next week?
This week and then however long it takes to do the street.
Chance you get bids.
Yeah, you're gonna have a lot of displaced cars during the school day.
Yeah, it's a quick turnaround, I understand.
But we can definitely look at that moving ahead, see what that looks like.
Do you ever figure out where the city lake funds?
To what?
The city lake
Did you
funds.
ever figure out where those,
You know, several people have contacted people, we're not getting an answer of just exactly what it is. I think we paid some money earlier and settled one, but we just haven't contacted the right people yet to get the information. So I apologize for that, but we have feelers out and we're getting some emails back in, but nothing bare bones. So we do have a good amount in contingency reserve to take care of that if that would happen.
Anything else, Mrs.
Yeah.
Meyer?
Nancy, are there funds here that don't roll over if we don't use them on this,
Okay,
on the
so
report?
we have to put money in at-risk funding. We have to put money in, we can put money in special education. Our general fund and our supplemental general must be zero at the end of the year. So when I talk about, between Bryce and I, we get to choose kind of where money goes. If we look at special education cost, our first payment to Flint Hills Co-op is in August. We don't get our first special education payment till September or October. So we always kind of try to pad special education funding as much as we can. Then it's kind of lightens the load on our budget when school starts. At risk, we are mandated now to put a certain percent of our monies into at risk this year. And
Maybe, I mean, just,
yeah,
I'm not,
the
you don't have
first,
to-
the first two, we have to move someplace else. They have to be zero.
maybe next time we could have just a slight summary of where.
I can do
spend
that
and-
for you.
and where we can move it to, so that
I
we
can do that. And we can put money in capital outlay, we can put money in contingency reserve. We can't put any money in food service. And we don't really put money in title. Title money comes directly to us and we must spend every penny in that account. So, I'll get a better breakdown for you of what we're going to need to roll over.
Thank you.
Other directors, Mr. Weaver, do you have anything at this time? Board member items. Board?
I would just like to thank the district for the opportunity to go to the national conference. We were in New Orleans last weekend and it was pretty incredible. Anytime you can get in a room full of people that all value public education and can speak to how public education has changed their life is pretty awesome. So, I attended a session on policy setting and the presenter gave me, I took a picture of the slide, he gave it to us to come back and share. And so the website he has is free education for board members, so I'll get that to Amber so she can send it out. And I have a couple other handouts that I'll send so that she can share it with the board. But the keynote speakers were incredible. The first one was Ruby Bridges, who, for those unfamiliar or don't remember, she's the little girl that was the picture of the courthouse, of the steps of the school, with all the parents out picketing and screaming, and the National Guard, and the little tiny 6-year-old girl being marched into the first all-white school. So there were 4 kids in the state of Louisiana that, is it Alabama?
Segregation, the beginning of segregation.
And so the other 3 all went to the same school together, but Ruby was all alone. And so she spoke to the importance of her teacher inside the building. Because on the outside, everybody was screaming and yelling and hurling hurtful things and awful things at her. But once she got in that building, she was loved by her teacher. And her teacher took care of her and built her up and helped make it not such an awful thing. And she said it, even though they looked the same, even as a 6-year-old, I understood that just because you didn't look, that you looked the same didn't mean you were the same. And I thought that was really cool. I can't fathom any of that. But the other thing I will say is just our last, I think it was the last speaker. He made a quote, and it stuck with me, and I texted it to Lance because it was really short and simple and profound. But the only way to make a difference is to keep showing up. So I'd like to thank everybody for showing up.
That speaker was Robert Montoya's, and for those people who don't know, he was actually a janitor with the Frito-Lay company, and in the late 70s, early 80s, the CEO of Frito-Lay challenged them to think like a CEO and come up with ideas that would promote the company forward, and he developed the Flaming Hot line. So, yes, so he has a movie out called Flaming Hot that's about his life, that's on Disney Plus. And so we got to listen to him speak about what it's like growing up, the son of migrant workers, sitting in the spot of a janitor who was given the opportunity and a voice to take an idea forward, and what that looked like for him and his family to be able to do that. So, very moving. In between the days, we had Dr. Timothy Shriver speak to us. That would be a Kennedy by Cousins that spoke to us about the Dignity Index and is the chairman of the Special Olympics Committee. And speaking to us about how when you sit down and have a conversation with each other, how we can go from having conversations that are not productive to conversations that are dignified in your discussion, and what that looks like, and how you can take conversations that are really, really negative and turn those around and make those constructive. So really great dialogue there. So just to piggyback off of what Jamie would like to say, I would like to really thank USD 417 for the opportunity to go representing KSB and our state association as the president. I got the opportunity to be on the big stage, serve on the National Committee on Policy and Beliefs, which took ideas forward such as fully funding IDEA and title, moving ahead, and got to formulate rationale and speak on those points in front of a national audience. The really great thing about that is that KSB paid for all of my expenses. And because I drugged Jamie along to a lot of those things, KSB also incurred some of Jamie's expenses while we were there. So I'm really grateful to the fact that Jamie doesn't say no when Tina Ray says, hey, Jamie, come with me. I have something that I want to show you and share with you where we can both learn and grow together. And so she was more than willing to do that while we were there. Mrs. Meyer had the opportunity to attend national conference for the first time and really hang out with Kansas and other states to get to grow and learn. And then I would also like to say thank you very much to the buildings, our staff and our students, our district office staff for having KSB Board of Directors and our staff here Friday and Saturday. Our kids did a phenomenal job presenting to those people that were here. The artwork that left from the elementary school is already on display in Topeka, which they are sending me pictures of. They're all lit up. Everybody is so grateful for that. Getting to go through those buildings and see opportunities that are there for our students as we talk about the SRP room and the behaviors and things that we've done. Getting to step into the kindergarten classroom with Jamie's group was amazing. And then we were able to go over to the high school with Mr. Dornbos and Mr. Meals, and the junior senior high choir presented the Holocaust cantata to us that was so absolutely moving that it just took your breath away. And then to hear that those students scored 1s and 2s on Saturday was amazing. And the thing that I want to point out to you is that a lot of those kids were in the drama production on Friday night. Then they had, and they had performed to the school body as a whole Friday morning, did that production Friday night. The choir performed for us Friday afternoon. We're gone Saturday to Tabor for performances, and then we're back on stage again on Sunday. So just a lot of things, good things going on in our district and our community that we were able to showcase on a statewide and a national level. So I just want to thank each and every one of you for what you do for our kids, our staff, just Council Grove and 417 shown beyond belief over the last 10 days. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I cannot thank you enough. So.
And I'd like to thank you for the trip also. My saying is, I've been in education a long time, and I started out in the inner city. Ruby Bridges was another inspiration to me about underprivileged children and how she worked through that growing up in an all-white school. So the other one is this Dignity Index. And one of the statements that was made is, when you listen, are you listening to understand, or are you listening to respond? And this is something that I learned as a teacher in KCK. We had a lot of workshops on how to handle teachers, how to work with teachers, and how to work with students. And these dignity characters, I sent a copy of that to our state education commissioner, Randy Watson, and I said, you need to have this on the program in October to the teachers. The teachers need to take this back and teach students how to build character and to work through disagreements, how to work through different ideas. And he was one of the best speakers that I've seen for a long time. I enjoyed the other ones. The Flaming Hot was pretty good. But I went to a couple workshops on rural education and interesting. And when you come from Shawnee Mission, Blue Valley, Olathe, none of them were in the rural education. But there were a lot of people from Kansas and small school boards that were there that were awed about the ideas that we could have to bring home. Thank you. And we got out before the flood started.
We did. Okay, any other comments from board members?
You guys look like you were having way too much fun.
We had a lot of fun. Food, yes.
We did get to go to Bourbon Street. DLR group of Kansas or the United States provided us a reception down on Bourbon Street. It was an interesting evening. If you've never been on Bourbon Street. So it looks like a lot of fun during Mardi Gras, but I kept close to my husband. He was bigger than any of the people walking around, so, yeah.
All right, the next item is our business items and our reports. So we're going to go back to the spreadsheet that was provided for us by Mrs. Coover, Ms. Miller, and Mrs. Reddick regarding the national conferences. So Mrs. Coover, we'll start with you.
Okay, so you'll see that you have two plans there, if we fly or if we drive, and we're going to Houston. And so that was airfare as of 4/10. Our registration is $90 per student. And then our hotel is $222 a night. And that would be for the 4 girls in one room, so $222 would be their cost. And then a little bit of transportation costs for Ubers, and then dining, and that's probably inflated, that's $15 a meal, but you know, some of the kids won't eat breakfast. But that's kind of a rough estimate of that. And then if driving, we would leave a day ahead of time, because we need to be there around 1 o'clock on that, the day that we have the opening ceremony. And so if we were to do that, we would have an extra hotel room. And so I was thinking if we got to Dallas, then we would have the Holiday Inn Express, it'd be like $25 a student to stay the night there. That's pretty much it for the breakdown of it.
Again, for new board members, the reason that we need approval from the board is not only because of that policy where we agree to pay the $250 per student, but we also need to approve each one of these conferences because students will be traveling out of state. And we're going to do each one separately. So does anyone have any questions for Mrs. Coover?
So, once the board decides to approve you, are you and the students going to decide who's flying, if you're gonna fly or drive just from cost, basically?
Yeah, we're gonna meet tomorrow. All the CTS, all of our groups are gonna meet tomorrow, but
Okay,
my guess is probably the lowest price we'll
Yeah,
probably drive.
okay.
Because we'll save $150 a student, so.
That doesn't seem like a lot to change from driving to flying. I mean,
It doesn't, but when you're thinking times 4 and then for our club,
yeah.
I mean,
What would be the most convenient?
I mean, obviously you would lose a day, you know, with flying. It's a long way to drive, so I get that, but I can do that. That's not really
that's not a big factor.
I'm just wondering if there's a
the
preference,
reason
if you take the price away, if there's a preference.
Mr. Dormouse?
The reason they're having to look at the option of driving and flying is just because of, I mean, these groups have fundraised for other things throughout the year. We do a ton of fundraising, so, I mean, it really does come down. If I was going on a family trip, $150 would make a big difference, but with the time, the amount of fundraising they have to do, with the time that we have left between now and the end of school,
So Laney is option.
I mean, that's why
Is that
they're
why?
presenting it, yeah. It will be an added hindrance to drive, and but they're
Mrs.
just trying to
Miller,
make it
or Ms.
work.
Miller, sorry, would you like to talk about what we talked about fundraising and the conversation that you all have had? Especially since we are where we are, what you guys are looking at for maybe a fundraiser and so we can have that conversation.
In the past, when FBLA has had qualifiers, we've had a bingo night in the spring, and we asked for donations for prizes and things like that, and, I proposed to Keely and Kim if, we wanted to partner together and offer a meal, and possibly if our kids we're kind of speaking before we have our kids' approval, but if we were to do it on a Sunday afternoon to try to have them be able to practice their events or show what they're doing, and then provide a meal, and kind of try to work together to make it a fun evening or fun afternoon of bingo and fundraise the best we can starting there, and then if the kids are willing and what other ideas. I always like them to come up with fundraising ideas because I can tell them to go sell cookie dough. If they don't want to sell cookie dough, they're not going to sell cookie dough. So ultimately, it needs to be whatever they want to try to fundraise and how they want to make the money. And so it's hard that, you try to give them control of it, I guess, is what.
Because the truth is, some kids will say, I just want to write a check.
Correct,
Right.
you're exactly
They
right.
don't want to do fundraising.
You're exactly
So-
right. And then that's the option I give on my survey and whenever I take things back. Are you willing to fundraise or do you want to pay? And usually
So-
they're somewhere in between.
Do we need an amount in the motion?
No,
We can just
no,
approve
because we
them and
already
they can
have, we
handle
have the
that stuff later.
policy. So we just need to approve for the students to be able to go, noting that we will pay the $250 per student and the advisor's expenses and the first tank of fuel, and provide a vehicle.
So what about Laney? If she is going to Houston first, is she gonna have to pay for the flight to Orlando
So well, I guess it depends on,
on what you fundraise?
Right.
Okay.
Or do we give her 500 since she's going on 2 trips instead of 250?
It should be 250 per.
Yeah, because it's per national conference,
so it would be 500 for her.
So what we'll do, so we would need a motion to approve the students attending the HOSA National Conference per our policy, and that would be the first one, and then we would do this, then we'll give Ms. Miller an opportunity to speak about FBLA, and then Mrs. Reddick an opportunity to speak about FCCLA. So each one of them is a separate motion.
Okay, so, and to be clear, we're not approving them to either go to fly or drive.
No, that's up to their,
They're
their decision, yes,
Okay.
yes. So all it is to approve the students to attend the HOSA National Conference per our policy.
I move that we approve the HOSA National Conference per policy and pay per policy.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the students to attend the HOSA National Conference per our policy and pay according to those guidelines. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Opposed, same sign. All right, now, Ms. Miller, FBLA.
All right, so I don't have a driving option because I guess I'm being selfish. I'm not driving to Orlando. As of
Drive
last.
Roberta to Houston, not too far away.
Yeah, right, I'll just drop us off. Yeah.
Saying.
I mean, no offense, but I don't want 8 days of my summer on the road with children. I love them, but 4 is enough. As of last week, our flights were almost 450. Our registration is 195. We're kind of comparing the three of us. To me, it's unbelievable, our CTSO programs of how different registration costs are across the board, and even comparing things with FFA, seems really strange to me, but ours is $195. I divided our hotel rooms by 3, because we have 3 girls, our total cost, we have 3 girls, and then we have 1 young man that if I find him 2 other boys to room with, I wouldn't make him share a bed with another boy he doesn't know. That's awkward. So that was kind of why I did mine divided by 3. We have other transportation and our food and along with that. A lot of time I make my students pay a deposit in order to go, to show they're committed. It's a $150 deposit that, because I don't want them me to book all these flights and then to turn around and back out and say, I have a family reunion that weekend. No, this is serious. We need to know if you're gonna go. So that's really the only reason why I do that. It all gets put back in the pile. And I try to pay, depending on our fundraising, paying for meals and giving them meal money. If we're successful at fundraising, they get meal money on the trips. It all just depends on how much they want to fundraise and how much money we get to add to the pile.
So again, the motion for this one would be to approve the students to attend the FBLA National Conference for the funds in our policy.
So moved.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the FBLA National Conference to Orlando per our policy. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Mrs. Reddick.
No, I think Embassy Suites offers free breakfast.
Yeah, first time that's ever happened, and I jumped for joy.
Right.
To be truthfully honest, and they do, yeah, free breakfast.
FCCLA.
Okay, so, on here there are 5 kids, but there's supposed to be 4. Lexi Brown, she could go, but she is unable to go. She qualified in a different event. But anyways, last week, flights to Seattle were $700 for Southwest per person. But I did check today and that went down a little bit, so hopefully it's cheaper than that. Registration is $180 per student. And then we do have 1 boy as well, and then 3 girls. So for the hotel, he would have a room with a roommate from another school in Kansas. They have like a email thread of who needs a roommate. But same thing, I probably wouldn't have them share a bed. So they have 11 hotel options. I just kind of estimated the cost based on what I thought we could get, because it is first come, first serve, so it's about $245 per person. Their star event is what they're competing with, so they each they'd have to pay $55 to compete in their star event. But Shannon and Piper's event is paid for because they got first, so the state pays for that, so that wouldn't be included in theirs. Meals I estimated to be about $110. There is, one of the hotels has free breakfast, so that's the one we want, but I don't know if it will fill up pretty fast. And then transportation from the airport to the hotel, I estimated like about $20 per student, but that's about it.
So our motion would be to approve the students to attend the FCCLA National Conference in Washington DC, or Seattle, Washington, I'm sorry, again, with the funds as highlighted in our policy.
So moved.
I'll second.
Moved by Kelsey, seconded by Jamie. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, ladies, and good luck to all of your students. We look forward to hearing how that pans out for everybody, so. And let us know about your fundraising.
Okay, well, maybe tentatively mark your calendar for May 5th.
That's always exciting when we get to do that, to see that many kids qualified. Terry can tell you, and I can tell you, when there was a time when it was just FBLA or FFA kids that were attending national conference. So to have FCCLA and HOSA now join that group is really great to see that many more kids be involved and engaged. Mrs. Gear, the results of our retention survey.
Yes, I'm gonna move over here since I have to shop for you guys. So this, I have a handout in your packet. Looks like this. The retention survey was completed in November by our licensed staff. We also did this in 2021, so this is our second time completing this survey. There is a team that, I don't know, reviews the data, looks over. Tina Ray's on that, Angela, myself, Dustin San Romani, Deidre Knight, Nancy, who else is on that?
That's it.
Is that all of us? Okay. So we asked that the director of the company that does this, Dr. Church, to do a video to share with our staff at our late start so they understood what the survey was telling us. And we also wanted to share it with all of you guys. So I took some screenshots from his presentation, just kind of the highlights. A key thing that you need to understand is the word driver. So drivers fall in two categories that we look at: engagement and we look at retention drivers. So we really want to see what our staff is telling us drives them to be engaged in their work or drives them to want to stay with us. So that gives a little, the mathematical, if you're wondering how they're figured out, it's on there. I'm gonna jump to the back because I feel like that's the most important part. This is actually our data from this fall. So our licensed staff, right now our classified staff is taking a similar survey. So we'll have results from them soon, but this is just our licensed staff results. So these are our drivers in our district. We have 6 listed here. And you can see on the right in the blue, if they're a driver of engagement, it has an E. If it's a driver for retention, it has an R. And then we have one that actually is a driver for both. And then the brownish tan column kind of in the middle, that is their perception, where they fall, where they rank these. So things like the second one down, opportunities to receive feedback to assist in your professional growth. They rank that as high, so they're happy with that. And it's a driver of engagement. So that's something that we as a district, when we're talking about that as administrators, that they are valuing that feedback that they get. They like that, and we need to continue that because that's a driver for them. Things that are listed as moderate, so like collaboration time is a collaboration time to work with teacher teams. It's a moderate satisfaction rating. So this is one where we might dig in a little deeper. Is it the difference between elementary and secondary? Is it a difference between a certain building or a certain level? We need to do a little figuring out because some people are clearly happy and some maybe aren't as happy. So we need to look at that a little more. But that's a driver for retention. So we need to figure out what we're doing that is working and what maybe we need to tweak. And then obviously you can see the 2 low satisfaction areas, both revolve around salary. So current salary and salary growth, and those are both drivers of retention. And then salary growth is a driver of engagement as well. So those are some areas that we need to look at as a district. Quick overview, there's a lot more information. If somebody wants to look at the detailed report, there's a lot. But this is the part that really we need to hone in on because this is what our staff is telling us drives them either to be engaged in their work or to want to stay with us.
And I would like to denote that when we presented this, when Dr. Church showed this to us, would have been in the early part of the spring semester last year, because that would have been the first time that they had the data that was broke down by district. We had 13 drivers. And so what that shows us is that we have made movement. We have actually done some things that have changed or altered those, where these are the 6 items that are important now. And so the things that I want to point out, like Val mentioned when the survey was taken. So the collaboration time to work with teacher teams of which you are a mentor, we had late starts that occurred after this survey was taken. So if we were to ask those questions now, we would hope that maybe that dialogue has changed a little bit. The survey is going to be given regularly, every 2 years. We did have 91%, is that what our number was? Participation.
100. In our district, we had
100% in our district, yeah, participation. And then they compared us again to the same districts that we were compared to previously for our benchmark data. So as Val said, there's a lot more information than what she has here, and more information on that and how we rank kind of to those benchmarks in the state. But this is information that's good for our administrators and the board to continue to look at as we move ahead. You want to talk about how you're giving opportunity for the classified to be able to answer the questions?
Yes, so the licensed staff took this on a PD day. We carved out some time for them to take this. So I think that's what led to our 100% participation. We gave them the time. So that was something the team felt really strongly about with our classified stuff as well. So on our late start last week, was that last week?
Yes.
Last late start, I let them know that they could come in. It takes 10 to 15 minutes, it's not very long, but they could come in early that day and take the survey then. They could stay late a day if they need to, but just trying to give them some time to complete it as well. So.
And you can break it down to like the building or what information is coming out? more
Not
specific
that
like
specifically, no. At least I don't, this is my first year on this team, so I would ask the other two. I don't think we can get building level results.
Because they don't want it broke down small enough that we can identify individuals, so that there's still some anonymity and safety that they feel in being able to answer these questions honestly as possible. So there is not a breakdown by necessarily what building you're in.
But we can do follow-up to this. So these results, we won't get the building level, but we can do some follow-up to find out like, okay, what specifically is working well with collaboration time and what do we need to fix on our end? Is it more structure? Is it different timing? Is it, like, we can try to problem solve through some of that, so.
One of the things that we talked about as a committee, and even conversations that we've had in this classroom, is what do we do with data? So if we're gonna collect data, what are we gonna do with it? So we want to make sure that anytime that we take these surveys, that information is provided back to them. So we're really grateful that Dr. Church was able to do that video for us last week. And then Val was available, Mr. Dornbos was available, Mrs. Harris was available to answer those questions in buildings. And then they can also continue to submit questions to Mrs. Gear or Mrs. Harris if they have questions regarding the survey moving forward. So to continue to let people know that their voice is being heard, we're seeing those results, and we're using that information as we move forward to make our decisions.
Is there any comparison data to other districts our size?
That's
So-
exactly what the benchmarks are.
That's what I was wondering, you had mentioned that, and so you said,
Yes.
like, I'm looking at these two, the salaries, is there a way to compare?
I think you
That.
have the list of benchmark districts, right, Angela? Okay,
Oh,
I say, I didn't have that because I wasn't part of it the year they did that. But I think we could get from those districts, who's,
I'd be
who
curious to
they
see
are.
how they compare, and
I haven't personally looked at it, so I couldn't tell you, but we could get that information, yes. No, I think someone may have already gotten it.
Yeah. Any other questions regarding our retention survey and where we are with classified? Okay, Mrs. Gear, you're up again. I told everybody that that would not be the last time you saw the calendar last month, and here it is already again.
Here it is. I tried to make this as easy to understand by noting the actual changes on the back. So I will go through these like in chronological order so it makes the most sense. The first one was a proposed change to on-site enrollment from moving that from the 25th to the 26th. I'll be honest, I don't know why we put it on Thursday to begin with, but this has to do with our district nurse being at a conference and coming back, not available on the 25th, but for Dana to be here on the 26th. It was an easy change for us to make, to move it to the Friday, because she is one of probably the most sought after people at enrollment. And so to not have her here just did not make sense. So that was easy, we just wanna move it from the 25th to the 26th.
Y'all jump in if I missed something along the way.
We had a lengthy discussion this last week about kindergarten orientation. So on the middle, you'll see it has a strike through on it right now. It would be completely removed, but I didn't wanna take it off until you guys approve this, so on the approved one, it'll be removed. We discussed with the kindergarten teachers, the building administrators. Kindergarten orientation, we actually added when we were on a limited ability for parents to enter the building, and we were on a different schedule with COVID. Since then, our kindergarten roundup is pretty much their orientation. They go through exactly the same stuff at kindergarten roundup, and it kind of felt like we were doing it again on orientation morning. And those teachers are losing out on the PD that morning that happens with everybody else because they're the only ones that have students.
We also have back to school night.
And yes, we have back to school night too, that they'll get that another opportunity to be in the building. So it was kind of a, do we really need this another time for the kindergartners to come in? And we don't provide transportation for kindergarten that morning because it was a shorter morning. So it was kind of another ask of parents that we just didn't feel like was necessary. Anything else to add?
I think the only thing I would add is that our pre-K has been relocated back to the main building. And so they're present and moving around the building every day. So it's not a new space for them anymore, like it would have been when we started the kindergarten transition.
So we would like to take that out of the schedule. October 18th, so there was some confusion on the wording. So October 18th and February 21st, those are the days that we compensate teachers for taking off for parent-teacher conference week. Basically, nothing changed on the schedule, it changed in the wording. In the middle that we just updated this to say there's no school that day because of parent-teacher conference week. It was confusing to some, so we just wanted to clear that up. The same thing with the end of trimesters. So at the end of each trimester, November 8th, that's our PD day. So the end of the trimester is actually the 7th. The 7th is the last day for the trimester. On here, I had listed it as the 8th. So all of those just got moved back a day on the wording, just to clarify, that is the last day of the trimester because there's no school on the 8th. So just clarity on those two. So this next one, I need to explain a little bit more in depth, which is Martin Luther King Day. We originally had Martin Luther King Day as a PD day, and then the 27th was the late start. In looking more in depth at all the things that go into building a calendar, our classified handbook and our classified policy do not match. Our classified handbook lists the holidays out and it lists Good Friday as one, and our policy lists all the same, but instead of Good Friday, it listed Martin Luther King. So something needs to be addressed with those so they match. I chose to go with the policy over the handbook. So if you all want me to do something different, I went with the policy and marked Martin Luther King Day as a no school day. So it is now an X on the calendar to follow, because if we don't have classified staff here, we can't have, there's no way we can have school. So that's all our bus drivers and our cooks and everybody. So that is now a no school day, and the PD day for the end of the benchmark got moved to the 27th. This actually helped us also because we had concerns about a shortened benchmark testing window, like what we ran into this year. If we have weather in January, it makes it really hard to get benchmark testing done and have all the data collected for the PD day anyway. So kind of fixed two different things by making the 27th now our PD day. Which then moved our late start. So our late start moved to Good Friday of April 18th. Just a little reminder, our late starts We use those as our collaboration time at the junior, senior high because they don't have any other time where they can collaborate. At the elementary, we do some PD and some collaboration time because elementaries have more regular time to collaborate. But at the junior, senior high, there's not time for them to get together as teams and have collaboration time. So that is one of the reasons that we started late starts. The other is if we were to add early releases, it really makes the balance for our pre-K sections uneven. So a late start helps balance that instead of another early release. Because I know early release has been discussed, but then you're stealing from your afternoon pre-K all the time. It also helps with the enormous amount of staff at the junior, senior high that help with activities after school. That if we do an early release, that they get pulled to activities and it's not really benefiting them anyway, so. I think that was all the changes. Let me review the list real quick. Yeah, that should be it. Anything else, administrators, that I missed?
Can I make a request?
Sure.
We use a lot of acronyms in education that people may not know. PTC week, I think might have some parents concerned about what that is or what that means. Can we maybe spell out that that's parent-teacher conference? Just so that parents understand what that is and they don't freak out that there's one more thing that they think is taking an entire week that they need to be engaged in.
I think for space it got shortened, but yeah, we can.
Or even if it was just like PT conf, like CONF.
Yeah, so that people
Okay.
knew that what the C
I
stood
think
for.
that would be
It's the
pretty-
first time we've seen the C on there. I think people know PT usually is parent-teacher conferences.
Okay.
I have
Yeah,
a question on April 1st, early dismissal. Professional development, but it's also league forensics. So is league forensics here?
Yes.
This
Yes.
is so we're on a rotation within the league. We host it every 8 years, or every 7 years. So it is our year to host. And you
So we'll have early dismissal for all the other buildings and they'll have professional development in the afternoon and your building will be,
we'll still have professional development, so it doesn't change. You know, there may be a few staff that are working the forensics meet, but we just need those classrooms and all that space
okay.
for forensics. So professional development still happens.
And one of the things that I think is important for everyone to understand, that was like, well, why can't they just let the junior, senior high out and the elementary kids stay? When you talk about busing, just making changes is a nightmare. Having 2 different dismissal times, I'm pretty sure the bus drivers would be like, nah, and I don't know if we could do it timeline wise. So when we have to cancel or end a school day early, we have to do it across the board because busing, there's just no way to not do that, so.
Any further questions for Mrs. Gear? So we would need a motion to approve the updated school calendar.
And I will make that change.
Madam President, I move that we approve the updated school calendar as presented.
It's been moved by Jamie, seconded by Kelsey to approve the updated school calendar as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And we'll see how many more times we see the calendar before we're done. Thank you. All right. The next item is the KESB membership and legal assistance fund renewals, and I will be recusing myself from the room.
This is a regular expense that we pay, basically to be a member of KSAB. The Legal Assistance Fund allows me to call and say, I'm with 417, I need to talk to an attorney. If you are not on their list, you're not talking to one of their attorneys. And we have just signed up for their legal department to go over our policy handbook here to make sure that everything is updated and everything. And these are specialty people of school law. And just about anything that you have a question about, they can pretty well tell us. They'll send us an example, they'll send us a statute. And then if you don't understand, you can call back. The 2 or 3 that I deal with all the time are excellent to get back with me as soon as possible. Parent has a question, a teacher has a question, or we have questions about either, it's answered. But this is our annual, the first one is our annual fee to KSAB, and the second page is the legal assistance fund.
You'll notice on there, there's option 1 and option 2. The difference, option 2 comes with the season pass, which makes it extra money. That basically lets us take as many of their educational offerings, classes and things as we want to for that price. We don't typically use it enough to make it worth doing that option. So in the past, we've always went with option 1.
Thank you.
So does anybody have any questions?
Do we need 2 separate motions for this? No.
So we can just do
Even
this one.
We can do one motion.
So I think you can just
Right,
make a
got it.
motion with the option 1 price. And then a motion for the, you can, and add the legal fund. Is it all together in one?
I know, but sometimes when you're scrolling, it's hard to find.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Let me do it.
I would say, I would entertain
I
a
motion
motion.
to, I motion to renew the district's KASB membership option 1 for $9,893.56, and the district's contract with KASB's legal assistant fund for $2,750.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to renew the district's KSB membership option 1 for $9,893.56, and the district's contract with KSB's legal assistance fund for $2,750. Any further discussion? If not, would you raise your right hand for approval? Same sign for nay. Motion carries.
You see that you and Tina have to sign this. You can come back now.
We decided Jay could handle it,
Great.
all the legal stuff.
They did advise me that I needed to step out of the room today, so that legal assistance fund is a pretty great thing.
Do we get every action?
Action after this one, yes. Not after that one, maybe after this one. So we're gonna start here, please.
Okay. Madam President, I move we go into executive session to discuss an individual employee's performance pursuant to non-elected personnel exception under COMA. And the open meeting will resume in 30 minutes with the board and Nancy Meyer.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we move into an executive session to discuss an individual employee's performance pursuant to the non-elected personnel exemption under COMA for 30 minutes with the board and Mrs. Meyer. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries, and our time will start once we clear the room, pause the recording, and place Jan in a meeting room. No, Evan, be done. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
1 minute.
Thanks, Evan.
No, I haven't.
Just 5. Madam President, I move we go into executive session to discuss an individual employee's performance pursuant to non-elected personnel exception under COMA. And the open meeting will resume in 5 minutes with the board and Nancy Meyer.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we go into an executive session for 5 minutes to discuss an individual employee's performance pursuant to the non-elected personnel exemption under COMA with Mrs. Meyer and the board for 5 minutes. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5 minutes, please. Sorry, thank you. Thank you.
I make a motion to approve Angela Harris as the Prairie Heights Elementary School principal for the 2024-2025 school year for a one-year contract.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Patty, seconded by Donnie, to approve Angela Harris as the Prairie Heights Elementary School principal for the 2024-2025 school year for a one-year contract. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Congratulations.
All right, we're gonna shuffle this around just a little bit. We're going to step into an executive session now for student info so that there will be no action taken after the rest of our meeting, but that way you guys can go ahead and go. We'll need you to stay for this one, but then you don't have to hang out for the last one. So, Jamie?
Madam President, I move we go into an executive session to discuss confidential student information pursuant to the exception relating to actions adversely or favorably affecting a student under coma. And the open meeting will resume in the boardroom in 10 minutes with the board, Nancy Meyer, and the ability to recall Matthew Weaver as needed.
We need to start with Matt.
Okay.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we have an executive session to discuss confidential student information pursuant to the exemption relating to actions adversely or favorably affecting a student under coma for 10 minutes with Mr. Weaver, Mrs. Meyer, and the board, and there will be no action. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
What are those two about?
Because Mr. Powell raised his left hand.
I can't play poker either, Jay. That's why I don't play.
You can't do that.
Madam President, I move we go into executive session to discuss confidential student information pursuant to the exception relating to actions adversely or favorably affecting a student under coma. And the open meeting will resume in the boardroom in 10 minutes with the board, Nancy Meyer, and Matt Weaver.
Second. It's been moved and seconded that we go into a 10-minute executive session to discuss confidential student information pursuant to the exemption relating to actions adversely or favorably affecting a student under coma with the board, Mrs. Meyer, and Mr. Weaver. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Opposed, same sign. 10 minutes. Okay, we need an executive session for negotiations, please.
Madam President, I move we go into executive session to discuss letters exchanged from the teachers pursuant to the exception for employer-employee negotiations under coma, and the open meeting will resume in 20 minutes with the board and Nancy Meyer.
Second. It's been moved and seconded that we go into a 20-minute executive session for negotiations to discuss the letters exchanged with the teachers for the exemption for employer-employee negotiations under coma for 20 minutes with the board and Mrs. Meyer. Any discussion? Again, there will be no action. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 20 minutes, please.
Make me 7 copies of that and bring them back. Okay.
Madam President, I move we go into executive session to discuss the letters exchanged from the teachers pursuant to the exception for employer-employee negotiations under coma. The open meeting will resume in the boardroom in 15 minutes with the board and Nancy Meyer.
Second. It's been moved by Jamie, seconded by Kelsey, that we go into a 15-minute executive session to discuss the negotiation letters from the teachers pursuant to the exemption for the employer-employee negotiations under coma for 15 minutes with the board and Mrs. Meyer. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Opposed, same sign. 15 minutes. Meeting held. There will be a special board meeting held at 6:15 p.m. on Thursday, April 25th, to discuss our capacity after our,
Non-resident enrollment.
Can we repeat that date?
yes, that is Thursday, April 25th.
So next Thursday.
Oh, sorry,
No, no, no,
no,
no.
sorry,
So we want
sorry,
the
sorry,
18th,
the
right?
18th, sorry, I wrote it on the wrong date. April 18th, Thursday, April 18th, 6:15 PM to discuss our non-residential capacity numbers.
I wouldn't do student teacher ratios, it'd just be non-enrollment.
Because this is, you have to come up with both.
Hmm,
You have to come up with both.
and our students teacher ratios?
I copy and pasted this from the
Okay.
policy.
Yeah.
Read both of them.
So our capacity, we'll be meeting on 6:15, special board meeting, Thursday, the 18th, for capacity numbers. And then our next regular Board of Education meeting will be on May 13th at 6 PM.
And the following Sunday is graduation and Monday is 8th grade promotion.
Correct. All right, with no further business to discuss, we are adjourned.